Hello! Why we should put more emphasis and interest and investment into space and space exploration, research, and advancement in technologies which ultimately will benefit space exploration travel. So, for one thing, I already mentioned it. Technology, at least for one of the aspects. The amount of knowledge that we can gain from inventing new ways, new strategies, new technologies from space, from our endeavors in space, can hugely benefit not just those in space, but also those on Earth. So if there's an aspect of space where being in microgravity or no gravity has a certain effect on our physiological makeup to some degree, like let's say our muscles and whatnot. Well, let's say if we can conduct a certain kind of study or experiment in space in which we can reverse the effects of muscle degeneration or bone loss from being in a zero gravity environment, in turn, this research can then be indirectly applied to existing conditions for people who live on Earth or any other body in the solar system or another solar system. So it goes hand in hand. So it doesn't need to be exclusive to space to have benefits to help others who live on a planet or the moon with low gravity. So obviously, my position with space is that we should definitely have a mindset of peace and exploration. As funny as that may sound, I mean, it's not funny, but it's important that we establish a baseline, a fundamental groundwork, a collaboration, so to speak, in which all of our endeavors and all of what we seek to do in space should be peaceful, or at least respect other nations as well. So meaning we're not using our technology, we're not using our capabilities to impede on other nations, let's say, their sovereignty. So it has to be a mutual respect. Now, does that mean all countries, whether we are an ally or considered an enemy, will see it that way or do it that way? Probably not, unfortunately, with the human mindset. We tend to be stuck in our own ways. We have our own beliefs, our own ideologies, ego, so it can be a bit difficult. But if the majority of nations can agree to keeping any endeavor that involves space peaceful, it's a good first step. Being one of the lucky few who can be sent into space, either be a military, bi-military, or work for NASA or another government agency, or a company, a private company. The overview effect that it leaves when you view Earth from above or from a distance, from in space, can change someone's life fundamentally forever, for the remainder of their life. I think that's one of those experiences that a lot of people should have in their life, because it can put things into a different perspective. It can probably knock them out of a certain state of mind on which they have been so absorbed and focused on just for being on Earth in a closed off or close social circle, social environment. Just seeing the vastness that space is, and just seeing how Earth can look so small, can cause someone to reprioritize or rethink the way they handle their issues, their problems, and they come to maybe realize that the problems that they are dealing with are may just be petty, or they don't know why it became such a big issue. It can be, it's life-changing, and this can have an overwhelming positive effect on others. So that's just the mental capacity of being in space. So we could talk the long-term effect of that. I mean, maybe over time, once we've established our presence in space in the form of a colony on, let's say, the moon or Mars, the more and more people do it, and more if we start having children on other planets, I'm sure that effect would go down a bit, but ultimately it's still, I think, a positive impact will be made. So the other benefit of being a space-bearing civilization is the fact that we can solve problems here on Earth probably better on another planet than here on Earth. Meaning, I don't know, when you say if you're trying to build a colony on Mars, you have to consider everything, every aspect of everything, from resourcing to building a properly pressurized environment to maintain a similar environment like how it is here on Earth. Every inch, every facet of the living environment has to be considered, and also that also includes resource management, mining, and just pretty much you're forced to be put into a position where you have to be very meticulous and very careful on what you use and how much you use and what you do, etc. So it can put one in the mindset of being more of a kind of a minimalist, so to speak, and I think that also is hugely beneficial. I mean, there are people who are minimalists. I like to consider myself a bit of a minimalist. The only things I like to keep is what I need and what I need to use in my immediate environment, and not just so much to have a lot of material possessions. So the fact that if we can make do and we can learn to live within our means with a minimum amount of materials in our life, with just what we need to survive, like shelter, food, water, some entertainment, and whatnot, we can make a fundamental impact on our overall impact, let's say on Mars or here on Earth. We can essentially start becoming more independent ourselves, and it can actually have a tremendous effect and reversing the effects of our presence on Earth. So that's another aspect. There are many different areas in which being space-bearing or a multi-planetary species, in which we can learn a lot about and just contribute. Those are just some of the things, very briefly. There are a whole lot more benefits to space exploration and investing our time and research into space exploration. It's like building a sustainable starship or building a sustainable spaceship in which its environment is its cabin and whatnot is probably would set a standard to vessels here on Earth, in case maybe, I don't know, the day comes where we're flying into highly polluted environments, which it's still a thing nowadays, but we're working on changing that. So a whole lot can be done, a whole lot can be learned if we just took our mindset and just thought beyond, well, instead of spending billions of dollars on a rocket, we can use that billions of dollars to feed the homeless. That's not a lie. There's truth in that. But you got to see the benefit in investing where it can benefit humanity as a whole in the long term. Because I haven't even talked about how how being a space-bearing multi-planetary species can ultimately benefit us in case a cataclysmic event were to occur here on Earth, meaning, let's say, a sizable asteroid smacks into our planet and nearly wipes out all life forms, or natural disaster that envelopes an entire nation. Let's say like Yellowstone. That can have global proportions on biological warfare and warfare from ourselves, or an outbreak, a pandemic, in which something we're already going through right now with COVID. But in terms of like severity, COVID, yes, it's a deadly virus to certain people, but it is nothing in compared to those like Ebola. Ebola, if we had an outbreak in proportions like COVID, it would be devastating, a lot more devastating. And millions upon millions, if not billions, would probably have died from it. But yeah, it's just a comparison. So it's one of the many few things. Just want to kind of entertain your thought process about it. And thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Maybe this will trigger some more thoughts and whatnot, or some ideas. So why space? There you go. That's part of it.